I don't really need to introduce plastic to you. I know you've all seen it in the news. It's been starring in headline news, plastic pollution, for a few years now. Wetherspoons last year announced their nationwide ban on plastic straws in their pubs. FFI, Fauna and Flora International, have fought for about 7 years now, finally convincing the UK government to ban microbeads. And even Coca-Cola, one of the biggest offenders in plastic pollution, has announced some really ambitious, somewhat, in my opinion, unrealistic goals to reduce their impact. So it's receiving media time that it really deserves, and it's a battle that we're finally discussing. Every single piece of plastic that you or I have ever disposed of still exists on this planet. So it by no means is not a battle that we have yet won. So no single ocean on the planet has been spared to the impacts of plastic. It's a global issue. The ocean knows no boundaries, of course. So basically what happens, plastic accumulates in these ocean gyres, which we know as garbage patches, this being the most famous one. And basically what happens is these ocean currents, they draw in the plastic and they trap it in the centre, and they form what they call these cloudy soups. And they get their name because of the microplastics that form these cloudy soups. So plastic doesn't biodegrade. It's the most attractive but also the most devastating quality that plastic has. And the kind of plastic that you guys see on the beach and on the shorelines is what causes these cloudy soups. It's all those broken up bits of plastic. It's on top of affecting the environment, plastic has a massive impact on wildlife, both terrestrial and marine, through ingestion, through entanglement, and through contamination. Contamination being one of the lesser sort of communicated problems of plastic. There was a report in 2015 that said that since 1960, 75% more seabirds have got plastic in their stomachs than they did obviously back in 1960. They projected at the time that possibly in years to come, so maybe even by now, that 90% of seabirds surveyed will have plastic in their stomachs. So in just 57 years, 85% more seabirds are ingesting plastic. Unfortunately as well, what goes around comes around. I actually watched a TED Talk the other day by a woman called Natalie Fee, and she entitled it "Plastic is Personal." No single one of you is unfortunately separate from this issue. All of us are inextricably linked through plastic. Unfortunately, probably the seafood on your plates has got contaminated by toxic chemicals that leach out from plastic through a process called biomagnification, which I probably don't need to explain to any of you. So, like I said, what comes around, and it's an issue that we need to be dealing with, if for no other reason than in order to ensure our own health. We won't move on to that yet. So, I could probably spout loads of more really bleak statistics to you and facts about plastic, but I'm going to try really, really hard, as I do all the time, to convince you guys that there is a little bit that you guys can all do to make a huge difference. Over the last 18 months, I've been trying really, really hard to reduce my plastic waste, and in doing so, I've done loads of research, and I really excitedly made this huge Excel spreadsheet, and it's got all the plastics that I produce, all the alternatives that I've researched, and all the things that I can do over the next few years to reduce my waste. It's an occupational hazard to study conservation that, you know, you go home and you sit at home and you've learned all these awful things. And I sit in my house and I look around and I'm just overwhelmed, as some of you may be, with just, you might do it now, just how much plastic is in the room and how much plastic in 28 years alone that I have accumulated. And it's really easy to think that, well, what is the point, you know, when I, heaven forbid, pass on, all of this plastic is left behind, and there's not really anything I can do about that now. But there really is. So in taking on this project, I found this community online of zero wasters, people who are living plastic-free lifestyles, people who are promoting sustainable practices. And you know, these guys have not radically changed their lives. They're not doing hippie things, naturalist funny things out in forests. They're not compromising their financial situation. They're simply making really small changes in their lifestyle. It's going a really long way to reducing plastic. And it's from these guys that I've learned an awful lot. I've also learned that there are organic plastic-free alternatives to just pretty much everything in your house, and possibly just as, if not more, effective. For example, for your shampoo, you can make your own shampoo, you can buy plastic-free shampoo. There are plastic-free alternatives, homemade alternatives for your cleaning products, and even your toothpaste. I've made my own toothpaste and it works. It's much cheaper and it's perfectly effective. It's completely plastic-free. Okay, so one of the questions I get asked a lot by friends and family and by people online is, but why, I recycle my plastic. How on earth is all this plastic even in the ocean? I don't understand. And my mum has asked me this question numerous times. She either was not listening in the first place or she hasn't grasped the concept. I don't know. But basically, it's cumulative. It falls off the back of garbage trucks when it's in transit. Our landfill sites that are just simply overflowing with our waste. All it takes is a rain event, a storm event, to blow the top layer of plastic off of that landfill, and it's washed down to the oceans. Same with these bins. We've all walked down the street and seen a plastic bottle or a chip polystyrene box stuffed in the side of the bin, and all it takes is a waft of wind and that piece of plastic enters into the drainage system, or by the rain is washed straight down into the water systems, and eventually, most likely like this, enters the ocean. Another question that I get asked a lot is, why isn't recycling good? Why can't I just keep recycling? What's the problem? And this is the main problem with recycling. All plastic has an end-of-life stage. It can only be recycled a number of times. Some of them are less than a handful of times, and a lot of the time plastic is downcycled, downgraded, possibly into fibres that are now in all of your clothes, all your bags, and eventually all the plastic that you've recycled will reach its end of life. So the point is that recycling alone cannot be the only solution, because eventually plastic will just, such as crisp packets and the cellophane that wraps your sandwiches, that plastic is just thrown away. So the main message that we've been trying to get out recently, or I say me, is refuse. It's the fourth R that's been added to reduce, reuse and recycle. Plastic Pollution Coalition, I think, introduced this refuse because recycling alone cannot tide the stem of the flow of plastic into the oceans. And we really need to be looking at just eliminating some of the unnecessary plastics, because I hate to say it, but a lot of the plastics that we use is entirely unnecessary. And it's simply about looking at things the way we did prior to the 1950s and the First World War, when plastic wasn't introduced and we got by perfectly fine. And it's just looking at things differently and going back to the old school days, basically. So I just wanted to share this analogy with you, which is one I've heard a lot of times in sort of plastic circles. Plastic pollution is just like an overflowing sink. So you've left a tap on, it's overflowed, the sink, the kitchen is filling with water, it's spilling out the doors, and you would be a first-class idiot to try and clean up all of this water quicker than it's coming out of the tap. What would you do when you walk into the room? You would turn off the tap, and then you would deal with all the mess on the floor. And it's exactly the same with plastic pollution. The resources and the budget it would take to clear the oceans of plastic is beyond the capabilities of any country or even the collaboration of countries. We have to work together to, first of all, reduce and turn off the tap, reduce the flow of plastic, as well as all the other initiatives. Recycling is admirable, and I don't want anyone to stop recycling. The simple fact that some people manage their waste and dispose of it responsibly is really great, and there are a lot of people not doing it. So we need to keep recycling. But the message that's increasingly being put out there is the fact that we need to eliminate plastic from our lifestyles. We live in a digital age, so I know that you guys have all seen these photos before, and they invoke real emotion in everybody. And you know, be crazy not to feel saddened by pictures like this. And more recently, the Wildlife Photographer of the Year photo of the seahorse with its tail hooked around the Q-tip. And these pictures, they invoke real emotion in everybody, and everybody's really saddened to see these photos. But converting that emotion to behavioural change to people when they walk out the door is really, really difficult. And I'm going to try very hard today to convince you guys that just through eliminating just 1 or 2 pieces of plastic that you guys use can go a long way. And if you consider it this way, there are more than 7 billion people on this planet, and the US statistics showed that on average every person produces and wastes of 1.6 kilograms of pieces of plastic every week. So if each and every single one of those people cut out plastic bottles or one of these 4, just think about how much plastic we can stop entering the oceans on a daily basis. These are 4 super quick, easy wins for all of you. You'll save money and you'll reduce your plastic waste, and they're things that won't drastically alter your lifestyle. And these are 4 things that are super notorious in terms of plastic pollution. So if you guys find it difficult to think, how am I going to start doing this, how am I going to start reducing plastic waste for my lifestyle, these are 4 really easy ways that you can start doing it. So I ask you not to do this for me and not to do this for yourselves, but if you could find it in your hearts to do it for these guys, that would be really great.
If we've already done the top 4, where do we go next?
Well, what do you do? Do you, in terms of sort of grocery shopping and things like that?
Yeah.
There's like a whole, this is a whole other 20-minute talk. But, so the Marine Stewardship Council, I think it was, suggested that 7% of plastic found on the beaches comes from our toilets. So I would hope to think that you're not disposing of your tampons and your sanitary pads down the toilets.
Or reusable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you're going to do your grocery shopping, go to the butcher, take a tub. Don't go and get the plastic, that's what I do. So essentially when I do my grocery shopping, I go to the greengrocers and I take cotton bags, put everything into cotton bags. I go to the butcher's and I take a Tupperware. I order it every week before and he has my meat ready for me. Cutting out meat is another thing. I didn't want to do that. Cutting out fish will do you guys some good. I also go to a dry bulk food store and I take my own jars and my own bags and I shop, put all my dry food in there. So essentially, my fiance and I have gotten our grocery shopping, weekly shopping down to 1 item with plastic in it. And it's so easy though. You know, when you go to a shop and you're faced with the wonky carrots and the packaged carrots, even if you haven't got a bag on you, stuff them in your pockets and walk up to the till and just shove them there and they will happily sell them to you that way. Just things like that really. That's what I do anyway.
How do you make your own toothpaste?
I can't remember the thing off by heart. It's bicarbonate soda, peppermint oil, water. I can send you guys recipes if that's what you like.
That's really cool, because I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's so, and cleaning products like lemon vinegar and water will clean all your surfaces. It's just so easy and it's so cheap as well. But I think that's the problem, is the fact that people assume that if I have to go to the shop and spend £4 on Flash, how could lemon, vinegar and water possibly do the same thing? But it absolutely does. Like there's sort of shampoos and conditioners that you can make, they won't all work for you and it can take some time. It's taking me time, you know, my lifestyle isn't completely plastic free. But yeah, it's actually quite easy to do.
Also, can I just say, Lush have started doing like plastic free shower gels and stuff. It's basically like a glorified bar of soap, but it doesn't come in any packaging or anything, so it's really good.
And shampoo and conditioner.
Yeah. Brilliant.